Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing? I am zooming from Mexico City. I am here exactly what I've been mentioned. I'm retracing my migration route, collecting materials. So I'll be back on Monday. So I'm going to share my screen. Thank you all for being here, by the way. And I'll kind of get into it. Okay. All right, so these are I want to talk about my disease throwers first, and it's a lot of layers to the work. So basically, I make these sculptures that I consider healing instruments. They're also shrines, um, and yeah, there are sculptures that make sound and they make healing sounds. Everything that I do rolls around two core things, which is overcoming cancer and just being an undocumented child, escaping a civil war. So everything kind of revolves around that.
Guadalupe,
Yes?
the way you're screen sharing, you're creating a gray box. Did you select desktop or the application?
Let's see. Let me try it again.
Select desktop.
Okay. No, this should do you still see the gray box? This is full screen now.
Yeah, the gray box is your image.
Oh, you don't see the images right now?
I see the images, but we also see gray boxes that are being produced on the computer.
Gray boxes. Okay, hold on. Let me try it again. This wasn't an issue before.
No, it wasn't.
All right. So maybe I clicked off optimize video clip. How about now?
Okay, that's better.
Yeah, so when you optimize video clip, I guess it does that. Okay. So I guess part of my practice is that I go back and I retrace my migration route. So when I was, I guess, just to get into it further, when I was 8 years old, I escaped civil war and I went by land from Honduras, Guatemala, all the way through Mexico and to Tijuana. Now I go back and I confront this trauma and I go back to these places and I collect materials and objects from these places. And they become part of the disease throwers. In addition to that, well, not in addition, but I really believe in animism. Like everything has energy. People are always asking me, how do you choose objects when you're traveling? And I really think about its energy, right? It could be this plastic hand that's cracked and broken and old. Or it could be like this plastic anatomical model that I found that also relates to illness that someone in my family. So then these things start becoming the actual objects that go on the disease throwers. Right now, I'm currently collecting objects right now. I've actually found this magnetic sand here that is actually from the border. And it's brown, so that eventually will become part of the work of new sculptures. Sound, if you notice, all the sculptures have gongs on them. So my relationship to sound is that when I was going through radiation treatments, I went to a sound bath and I walked in there with a lot of pain and I actually was able to walk out with less pain, and I saw a significant change. To my benefit, the person playing was Don Carnew, who's actually he's one of the inventors of these sound therapy in the 60s, right? And sound medicine is nothing new. It's been happening for thousands of years. If you think about it, during all those cave paintings, there was rituals accompanying in shamans singing or playing drums, right? If you think about the Tibetan throat singing, and those vibrations, how they use that as healing, as medicine. If you think about all the drumming and flutes from South America to Africa, they're all using rituals. The sound always controls the momentum and produces healing. So for me, when I was being challenged with overcoming cancer, sound was a major component. not only the gongs, but flutes, harmonicas, and many other instruments were used by healers and shamans to help me overcome this illness. I was also very blessed that during this time, I was working with healers from all over the world, curanderos, witches, shamans from everywhere, from Tibet, from China, Korea, Israel, Native Americans, in Mexico, Central America, curanderos and shamans, and all the healers and brujos from Brazil, Peru, Ecuador, Chile, Colombia, right? I met all these healers, and everything was like sound, plant medicine, and I was going through this kind of journey that taught me not only like how to heal myself, but also learned that if I heal properly, I will cleanse 7 generations back and then 7 generations forward. And what I mean by healing properly is doing the work every day, right? Staying true to my practice, which is the art, but also giving back to communities, sharing my knowledge that I picked up along the way for those that need it. And also just being active in communities, and literally continuing my daily meditations and all the healing work that I do to myself. I believe I'm never going to be fully healed. I'm constantly in the healing process. And this is how my mindset is with this, right? So this sculpture here has the anatomical model of a breast that has cancer. And that also relates to someone in my family. So that becomes part of it. This one actually got someone to make a stone heart out of a volcanic rock that became part of the sculpture. Another part of my practice is that I create microeconomies. During these, I actually met someone today that's going to start working for me. And actually, I'll just show you a sneak peek at this amazing beadwork that I got. Look at this beauty. And I'm going to hire this person to make embroidery work for me. And they'll be my designs. So this is the kind of thing that happens when I'm traveling. It's not only collecting objects, but having conversations, creating new friendships, and building a new microeconomy that the museums pays me, institutions pays me, and then I go and hire someone to produce details of some of these sculptures. The Tripachuca drawn in the back is actually a Salvadoran children's game that you see. That is played between 2 people. You put pairs numbers on the wall, and this shape starts to morph, right? It looks like a topographical map, a fingerprint, but it's always, to me, is a bond between 2 people. So here I hire someone who's undocumented or a cancer survivor, and we play the game. So it becomes a bonding about that. This is at the ICA Miami in 2019. Again, so after I overcame cancer, I went and learned under this teacher, this sound healer, that taught me how to play the gongs. But the way I play, the way I was taught to play the gongs, yeah, anyone can hit a gong with a mallet, right? But the thing is, it's about we're pretty much meditating when we're playing. We're channeling the energy and we're kind of releasing it into the space, right? So we're almost like vessels, right, when we're playing. So that comes with a lot of years of meditation, a lot of years of practice. I've been meditating for over 20 years, so it was very easy for me to transition into playing and channeling energy into the space. And this is something that I've continued to do. It's a big part of my practice. The harmonicas and the flutes and all these other wind instruments I have to put on hold. I only do this in private ceremonies because of COVID, obviously. It's hard to blow them and during a public ceremony. So from 2019 to 2020, I got a Soros grant, and I was able to rent the space in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. And I created a safe space for the undocumented community. And I was undocumented about 35 years ago. And it's really important for me to share my knowledge with those that just have crossed the border in the last couple of years, or even if they've been here 20 years, right? I realized that a lot of people in the undocumented community are going through depression. They're really stressed. They've been separated from their families. They experience a lot of trauma and violence, escaping those countries to come here, and then they're put into cages by ICE detention. So, I reached the, I communicate with them, and I started offering these holistic healing circles where I invited practitioners that helped me heal from cancer. So I brought in herbalists. Here's someone doing a cacao ceremony. We have conversations. I brought in someone from the city of New York that taught us where to buy organic, affordable, organic produce, right? So I brought in someone I brought in a shaman from South America, a shaman from Mexico. I brought in herbalists, mycologists. I brought in acupuncturists, people doing Tai Chi and Qigong, all types of yoga, Indian yoga, every type of holistic healer that you can meet. And then we would do a workshop together, and I would do a sound bath to accompany that. This was going on for 2 years. Here I am playing the gongs. Here's a herbalist in the Lower East Side. We took a little trip and we looked at the medicinal qualities of plants. And the groups ranged from 12 to 20 people per week. And the same circle just kind of kept coming back. We would always finish the event by I would hire a Salvadoran chef with the grant money, and I would pay her to cook pre-Hispanic food. And we talk about nutrition and care, right? And we talked about how like digestion really can affect the body. It can affect how you sleep. It can affect stress levels, right? But not just what you put in your mouth, but also like digesting like things with your eyes, like just looking at things can also be a part of what you listen to, what you read. Like all of this is affected as part of the healing process. Yeah, so it was like a very, very special time for me. A lot of friends I developed. It was just like so much love in there. Here's a little clip. I don't know if it's gonna be choppy, but let's try. So when the pandemic hit, I got my stimulus check, split into 4, gave it to 4 families. Everyone in the community that I was working with was not able to feed themselves anymore. They were working as making deliveries, they were cleaning houses, they were taking care of children. All of this, there was no work. Everybody was home. The restaurants closed, so they couldn't make deliveries. Everybody was home with their kids, so they didn't need their kids taken care of or have their houses clean because they didn't trust anyone to go in the houses because of COVID. So I put that in my Instagram and I said, anyone's willing to help, send me money on my Venmo. And I was not expecting to get that much money, but in the matter of the next 4 months, I raised around $80,000 and I was just giving people cash. Eventually I took care of the inner circle of the community that I've been working with, but then people, friends of friends started calling me. They would call on the phone and say, Lupe, we don't have any money to eat or pay rent. Can you help? And I would just talk to them for a couple of minutes and I said, okay, yeah, let me drop off the money. Or I gave it to my friend that was helping me distribute money and she would hand it out. People started coming from everywhere. There's a lady here that was 22 years old with a newborn baby, single in New York City, didn't have any food. She was only getting some help with the diapers from the church, but there was no way she was getting help. So we just covered her month for 3 months and make sure she had enough food for that same amount of time. It started to get really, after 2-3 months of this, it became really difficult because it was not sustainable. I was staying up at night trying to figure out if I should give this money to the undocumented trans woman that called me that was in a toxic household that needed to get out, or the family of 4 that had nothing to eat, right? So it's like, I'm just an artist. Like, how did I get put in this position, right? The government completely failed all these people. So it was starting to really affect me. And luckily someone connected me to Juan Carlos Ruiz, who was a pastor. This New Yorker article is really beautiful. It kind of explains what he was doing. But he was feeding around 3,000 people at his church. He was undocumented himself. And he has a lot of the same values that I have, even though I'm not a religious person, I'm a highly spiritual, but everything else had the same values, super beautiful. So I just started working with him and distribute everything from distributing food. Then I started using the money that I was getting, and I was buying 1,500 pounds of grains per week, which includes rice, beans, and corn flour that we use to make tortillas or tamales. And then I would put them in these boxes with other produce. They were, the volunteers would break them up and put them into different sections. So they had the grains. We also built a community garden on top of the roof. But really, he gave me the church to do the sound baths and do the same exact work I was doing before with that other undocumented community in this other space in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. And the sound baths continue. My partner was helping me play the gongs, and I was doing all these kind of healing work. I would talk to them about everything else that I was doing as far as nutrition, how to take care of your body and your mind, your mental health. All of this was going on in the middle of the pandemic before we were vaccinated. The pastor and I talked about, like, we can't just put trauma on hold because of the pandemic. These people need care. Some of them were just coming out of ICE detention. So that was kind of like what was happening. At the same time, I was approached by Creative Time to do this project, and I was influenced by the sandbags in the Notre Dame Cathedral that they kind of created the infrastructure. They protected the infrastructure by putting sandbags inside of the church, and they were still having mass. Even though the bombs were falling everywhere, right? So it reminded me of the bags that I was handling. Also started researching how they ship and store these bags. And we had this beautiful space in Queens. This is the Science Center, the Great Hall of Science. And Creative Time and I were going to do a big project there. It's a magnificent building. The idea was to create these pyramids made out of those maseca bags, the rice and then the beans, and we ordered 42,000 pounds of food. The idea, this is a little corner of the pyramid. The idea was to actually install them in space with 2 new disease throwers and do a lot of the healing work, the holistic healing work that I was doing before with the communities, but to the public, everyone dealing with COVID. This is what the space looks like from the inside. This is an image that I made that was going to be projected. They commissioned these 2 disease throwers that are actually now at MoMA. Unfortunately, we were installing, a couple of team members got COVID, and in November, the second wave hit. And we thought it wasn't safe for us to do this by having all these people in there and activate the space to do all this healing work. So that one was canceled. And that one's really painful for me because, like, I was gonna, basically after having these 42,000 pounds of food, we're gonna donate them into the food banks, into the church, the grains, right? So unfortunately that was kind of canceled. And then these sculptures were just kind of left unfinished. Eventually they became part of what's happening at MoMA. And then March of 2021, I had my solo show, 7 Ancestral Stomachs. And I had 6 disease throwers in the space with my gallery in the Chinatown, Tribeca area. And I had this is one of the 7 Ancestral Stomachs. And here I'm talking about really how healing 7 generations back and 7 generations forward. So to me, these are the ancestors that I'm healing with the work that I'm doing in my lifetime. Also, the retablo paintings are a big part of my practice. Again, this is a 4th generation. I don't paint, but I make paintings. I pretty much design them on the computer, Photoshop them, and then I give it to a 4th generation retablo painter, Daniel Vilches, who signs them, and then he just kind of copies what I give him. And then we go back and forth on WhatsApp several hundred times to make sure that every detail is how I want it. Like even like the little tips of the fingertips of the nails. I'm like, it's a little bit too cool. Can you make it warmer? And so on. So this goes back and forth. Here's a dehydrated tortilla in the frame. In some, I've made about 4 of these. These are a little bit different because these are someone else's stories. They're normally my own stories. So now that it's hard to raise money, I'm making these other retablos that, like, for example, this is someone at the church that was in ICE detention for 19 months. And he actually, the only reason he got out of ICE detention is because he sued them because his appendix exploded while he was there. So I made a retablo for him. And with that, like basically I buy his story and then I give him half of my cut after the government takes their cut, after the gallery takes their cut. And after I pay the retablo painter, I give him my cut, right? So it's like, so I've made a couple of these paintings that I help someone very specifically in the community and they get a nice chunk of cash. This is my show in 2020, same year at Socrates Sculpture Park. And I made a sculpture of, it was 5,000 pounds or 7,000 pounds of recycled aluminum. It was chopped, melted. And I made myself and the entire team made the sculpture. Also had a fire pit. Also gongs is a disease thrower. And, and this space was really special to me because I was actually holding sound baths for the cancer community. We did a sound bath for like 30 people. It was a sculpture in addition to 7 other stations. So yeah, and it was something that kind of kept happening. And at some point we did a couple sound baths for the general public that had over 1,000 people show up. With the, during the pandemic, everyone was masked and had to follow every procedure, of course. And now I'm actually going to stop sharing, optimize my video. Okay, 1 second. I'm gonna play 2 videos for you guys now. Okay, so for that installation, I also had a medicinal garden with ancestral and healing plants around it. I would go and hire a firekeeper that would protect the space. There were so many people releasing so many things. People were releasing things, the fire would take it, right? So it was this giant project that I had, about 8 sound healers every time we played. And I'm gonna show you one more video here. So this one's about my show that's up at MoMA right now. As medicine is something that's been going on for a long time. And today we're continuing that here, particularly using the gongs. And they have the same frequencies as planetary systems and different elements. And we use that as the healing tool. That's what we're using today. The bodies are around 70% water. And in this water, we carry stress, we carry anxiety, and sometimes we can even carry trauma. And vibration helps us release those tensions. Okay, so just for clarity, I don't really believe in healing anyone. I believe that we are our own healers and we have to do the work ourselves to heal. There's healers and that could put you in a place to do the healing work, but I don't believe anyone's going to heal you with a magic wand or anything like that. So for example, when we have the sound baths, um, we are inviting you to come to a space that you can do your own work. And where actually the sound is taking you to that place, right? Whether you're ready to do the work or not, it's up to you. But it's the work is all personal. Everyone has to heal their own traumas. So that's the way my approach to healing is. Same thing, if you go work with a shaman or curandero, you got to do the work yourself. They'll take you to that place that you need to go to, but ultimately you have to do the work on your own. So I'm just going to stop my presentation with that and leave it up to some questions. Thank you.
So much for that. That was absolutely incredible. I was wondering what you think it is about sound as opposed to the four other senses or whatever other senses there are that is particularly useful for getting to that state.
Yeah, I mean, I think I talked about it I mean, the video that I showed, the MoMA video, it's like how our bodies are 70% water, 60 to 70% water. And in this, and even like animals too, right? They carry the water in their blood and in their bodies, their muscles. And vibration is the part that really affects us. When I play the gongs, I have 3 cats. They just sit and they get really calm. When we were at Socrates, there were tons of people that brought their dogs, and they always told me, I've never seen my dog so calm in my whole life. And they would just sit there and just be super calm during the sound baths, right? So it's like the animals are responding to it as well. So like that's why I feel like sound is really powerful, and yeah, it's kind of I feel like it's undervalued to an extent, because we always think visuals first. But I had a video game designer tell me one time that sound is 51% of the video game, and it's 49% visuals. So when you start thinking about it, I was like, wow, we always associate video games with like colors and sound and movement, but the video game designer puts so much more, just a little bit more energy on the sound than the actual visuals. So that got me thinking a lot. It was a long time ago that he told me that. So that's always got me thinking about how powerful sound can be.
Hey, Guadalupe, we have a question online. It says, I deeply appreciate what you do as part of your practice. My parents and I have been undocumented, but I grew up in a safe house with undocumented migrant kin from Mexico, Central America, South America, that we were. My father did most of the translation and advocacy. Before going to kindergarten, I would accompany him when he would confront our wealthy suburban neighbors for not paying our rent. We often were threatened and harassed for this. I guess that was a comment on the question.
Yeah, okay. No.
I have a question for you. Is there any sound or images you avoid that you feel are harmful to you?
I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry, repeat that again? It sounded choppy.
Sorry about that. You said that the images and sound we digest as humans, and I was wondering, is there any sound or any images you avoid because you feel that?
Yes, no. Yeah, this directly ties into what's happening in Russia and Ukraine right now. Like I'm actually having a hard time digesting, I mean, just kind of just really digesting the images that I'm seeing like on my social media or like on the news. And it's like almost addictive. You want to see more, right? So like today I decided not to look at anything today. So, and because it affects my mental state, like yesterday, I was not doing well. I was just like looking at this and I was just like, wow, I feel so helpless. I can't do anything. I saw images of children in the middle of violence and it reminded me of my own experiences. So today I was like, I'm not going to look at this for a couple of days, even though I want to know what's going on. So that's just an example right there.
All right, we have another question from the virtual audience. So, do you find it useful to distinguish between art and activism?
Yeah, I don't separate it. It's all connected. I feel like everything that we do is connected. You know, how I deal in society as a human is not separated from being an artist. I don't believe in separating the artist from the person. I feel that everything is connected. You know, how I interact with my cats, to how I interact with my partner, to how I interact with my students, my colleagues, so a stranger in the street, right? It's all connected. How I treat nature, right? If I recycle or not, like that's all like really kind of all ties in together to how I behave in society. You know, just like even making that big metal sculpture, I was like, this has to come from a recycled material, right? It's my first outdoor sculpture, and we got 7,000 pounds of junk, and we made a sculpture out of it. So like everything is tied in. So how my approach going into the church and being innovative in that space is not that much different in how I present myself in a museum or my studio, right? Still innovating and trying different things. So to me, it's all together.
Has there been pushback from the art world in the sense of trying to change the way you create and address your audience?
No, I'm actually, you know, I mean, I've been talking about healing for 20 years, but no one was listening to me before. Now that the pandemic hit, everybody wants to be healed. So it's opened up a lot of new doors. But also I understand that healing is become a commodity, right? You can buy a $20 candle at Whole Foods now. You know, everybody's trying to cash in. I don't blame them if they're healers trying to survive, make a living, but I do find it problematic when people see it as a business proposition to make money, right? I don't charge a cent for any healing work that I've done or ever will. I make art and I sell art and I have a full-time job as a professor, and that's how I make my money. I will not charge anyone for any healing work.
There's another question online. It says, have you ever used your sonic techniques during deaths or births?
Not yet, but I've experienced many deaths in my life. Just recently, I lost a cousin that was my age to COVID. I haven't gotten the opportunity, but anything is possible. I want to have children in the future at some point, and I would love to do something to welcome them in. But yeah, those are beautiful questions, because those are things that I'm thinking about.
Any more questions? Oh, hold on, we got one.
Hi.
Hey.
I'm wondering about the ripple effect of all of the different healing techniques you use in your performance and in your practice, and if you hear from the communities that you work with, whether or not they continue with any of the things you all have participated in together.
Well, you know, there's certain things that are, for example, when we're working with the communities, like there's things that individuals respond to and is more effective, right? So I always get like when we do a particular sound bath, someone will come up to me and say, "Oh, I like it when you play the rubber mallet and it makes a high pitched sound." And then someone might say like, "That part really kind of disturbs me a little bit." but in the good way, right? So, and that's just an example, right? But when we come in and it just someone relates or connects to either like a yoga movement more than like what we did with the curandero or the shaman or the pastor, right? So it's like there's so many different ways, but my advice is like, okay, I'm offering you guys all these different ways to heal. You guys pick whatever resonates to you the most, and then you keep going with it, right? Just I wish someone taught me how to meditate when I was a child, right? So teaching meditation in the church, or right. So that's a big, to me, it's like it's a huge deal, because if I would have known to meditate when I was a child, maybe I would have never gotten cancer. You know, like I connect my cancer to holding trauma for so many years, and it manifested into a cancerous tumor. I'm not saying that everyone that has trauma is going to get cancer, but that's how mine was formed, and I'm pretty sure of it. So I have other family members that has lupus, right? I have family members that have depression that were all undocumented. So I'm basing my what I talk about based on like lived experience.
All right, we've got another question for you. What are some resources that you could share with us for those who are interested in learning more about meditation?
Yeah, well, very fortunate that, you know, like we can just Google anything these days, you know. They're actually like, there's tons of guided meditations on YouTube that are actually pretty good. And my advice when choosing somebody is just kind of just go to someone you resonate with, because you can probably go on YouTube and find 30 or 40, but there's going to be one that's going to be like, okay, that one, I relate to that person, or I connect to it, and it's the voice and just who they are, and just go with it and just do it. And meditation doesn't have to be like 2 hours a day. It can be that. But if you have a busy lifestyle, you can do 10, 15 minutes. Just do it daily. That's the thing. Just kind of do it. Make it part of your rituals. You know, like for me, it's like I made it part of like my morning routine. When I get up, I go to the bathroom, brush my teeth, take a shower, do all that stuff. Then I make hot water and I start meditating. It's also important to have a place that it's already set up, that is either a shrine or it could be just a candle, or just some incense, right? And just have that set up, so you just go right to it. It's all set up. It's almost like having your toothbrush and your toothpaste by the sink. It's like all set up, so it becomes a daily routine. And that's key, even if it's 10 minutes, as long as you do it every day.
Another question. Do you face any harassment when working with undocumented communities?
Harassment from ICE or from the community?
I guess from anybody. What's usually you're more defensive or more aware of that you're going to be harassed by?
You know, the last time we did a sandbath at the church, like a white supremacist walked in there with a gun. And it was pretty crazy because we were setting up, the families were there, and I forgot the mallets. And I was like, I'd never done that in my life. And I ran out of there. My studio was 10 minutes away. I went to get the mallets. And I saw this man walking as I'm leaving. And I was like, oh, who's that? Right? He looked kind of suspicious. Like everyone in the community, everyone in the church is like from Central America or Mexico. And this guy walks in there. And then when I came back, everybody was shook. And I'm like, what happened? Like basically this guy went in there and tried to steal the little box for donation box, and started screaming at people and telling everyone that he had a gun and that he was going to shoot them in the fucking face, and he's super aggressive. And luckily there was someone in there. The pastor wasn't there. I wasn't there. But luckily there's a member of our community who's like he's like a white man, and he was the only one that was able to kind of calm him down. Luckily I wasn't there, the pastor, because it would have been a confrontation. I would never want it to be a confrontation, but this person was so aggressive that he probably would have never listened to a brown person or a black person. He has his mindset, right? So we were really blessed that we had a member of the community that he's always helping, a volunteer. And he would see eye to him, and he was able to get him out of there without harming anyone. So I feel very very blessed that that could have gone wrong really fast. But that is the main thing that I can just think of right now. But there's been other like little things with always have to be careful with ice and that whole thing. So yeah.
Is that it? Oh, we got one more question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering, since you work so much with sound, if you can speak to your experience, if you've ever worked with anyone in the deaf community, or if you hope to work with anyone that works in the deaf community, or.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So that last video that I showed of Amoma, so Amoma have 2 beds, and they're made out of steel. And so basically the skeleton is steel. It doesn't look like it's steel, but so for the sound baths, they were actually made for the deaf community. Because I did a sound bath many years ago in New Mexico, and there was a person that was deaf, and they didn't even experience the vibration. I thought they can get close and feel it, but they didn't. So I made these sculptures that if someone gets on top of it, it vibrates. So I invented my own type of vibrational healing instrument. So someone lays on it, and if you're deaf, which at MoMA will always leave those beds for anyone that is deaf or hard of hearing, they get on the beds, and every time I play parts of a gong, different types of the bed vibrate. So yeah, it's been really beautiful to kind of share those sculptures with the deaf community.
Okay, I guess that's it. Thank you very much, Guadalupe.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for coming, and I'll see you guys soon. Blessings. Thank you. Thank you.